Hello, 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 and this is the Urban Surfer Glenn T. You are listening to another episode of Riding the Wave. Thank you once again for joining me. Always love to show you guys some love by showing you my perception, my opinions, and again, they're my own. My mission is just to change one mind a day in a positive way. Once again, if you want to reach out to me, I am featured on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spreaker, and Spotify. More venues to come. Also, if you wanted to reach out to me, I'm at rtw.podcast, which is my Facebook. Twitter is Glenn_town, and my Gmail is ridingthewave.podcast@gmail.com. So how's everybody doing out there? Hopefully you guys are getting to where you're going safely. You are staying in your lane and thinking about some of the things that I am putting out in your ears. So any questions, suggestions, comments? You know how to reach me. Again, I am the Urban Surfer Glenn T. And just jumping right into our topic today. Habits. We all have them. They're very easy to make, hard to break. But we certainly all deal with them on a daily basis, multiple times a day. Habits are a part of our lives. So just wanted to create a little space about habits. We know there's some good ones, some bad ones, some necessary ones, and some ones that we're just trying to get rid of. But all the same, they're certainly part of our lives, and we are certainly having to address them nowadays. We have kids coming underneath us, right? So we have to teach them the nature of habits. How many of us do we know? How many of us know about habits ourselves, right? And they sneak right up on us, so not always ready. So I just wanted to get a little bit into that today about habits. And again, this is the Urban Surfer Glenn T. And again, I just want to thank you guys. You have been very supportive, showing me love, commenting, suggesting, just leaving your comments, just interacting with me. This is a podcast world, and what you hear causes responses, and I love that from you guys. And just keep up the good work. So getting right into it, habits, right? One thing that we can all agree upon is that humans are certainly creatures of habits. Probably more than any other creature, right? Because we can adapt better. Us adapting better means that we can create new habits all the time. A lot of us tend to do so. Whether they're good or bad, yet to be determined. But who's to judge, right? There's only one God, last I checked. So let him do all the judging. We just observe and watch and figure out whether we're going to go ahead and do the same things or just we're going to create our own lane, right? So how many of you guys out there heard that habits are formed in 21 days? Right? That is one of those telephone line rumors. So for all of you guys that heard about the 21-day thing and it becomes a habit, that is absolutely wrong. All right? The key word is it takes at least 21 days of an activity for it to become a habit. At least. Under normal circumstances, for a human being to form a habit, it takes about 66 days. So if you do something for 2 months, it's safe to say that it's going to be a habit of yours. Whether it's drinking smoothies or smoking cigarettes, right? You do something for 2 months, 66 days approximately, and it's going to become a habit. So that's the nature of human beings, right? Both good habits, bad habits, habits all the same. Give yourself 2 months and you got yourself a new plan. So we know there's both good and bad habits, right? Some of them are very objective, black and white, clean cut. Bad habits, smoking cigarettes, lying, stealing, these things, no good, right? Then we could talk about exercise, reading books, praying, giving to poor people, things like that. These are good habits, right? So, there's some that are just straight black and white. But in regards to habits themselves, some of them are very necessary. How many of you guys got to get in the habit of reading? Reading more, acknowledging yourself, right? That's a habit. It's a good habit to have, but it is certainly subjective. Because it depends on what you read. Get in the habit of eating less. Eating less what? So there's gray areas there, just to say the least. we don't want to go down that road of all gray, because then that gives us an excuse to either do something right or something wrong. And, we can either scratch our heads or high five each other. Another story, another day. But basically, we just want to keep it at habits. We know they're very easy to break. You can break a habit. I mean, how many of you guys you feel that, a habit is easy to break? Not the easiest thing to do, obviously. But, it can be done. It can be done. It's all in the mind. Certainly hard to make a habit, especially if you have a commitment problem, right? So, that's just something we want to consider. They're definitely, it can be easy to break, hard to make. Depends on who you're talking to. Somebody might say the exact opposite. They're easy to make and hard to break. It all depends on where you go. I know I can feel one way about a habit and another way about another habit. So nobody's right or wrong here. It can be both easy and hard to make and easy and hard to break. Let's not split hairs. But all the same, we know that once we're in that world of habit, getting out is certainly something that we may have to do at times. So, just kind of leads me to asking a question here. And again, you're listening to the Urban Surfer Glenn T. You are riding the wave. We're talking about habits today, just kind of breaking the surface there. Any subject is meant to be synthesized and analyzed. So if I'm just brushing the surface for you guys, just know it's not on purpose, but I try not to take up your entire day, nor am I a specialist in any one thing. Just kind of like to peruse through topics, get you guys' minds working in a certain direction. And again, these are my perceptions and opinions, all on my own. These are my realities. So my mission is only to change one mind a day in a positive way, and it's not a complete mind change, just to broaden your horizon. Guys, I know you guys, you should know I love you enough that if I don't get it right, it's always back to the drawing board. And I'm always looking for the kudos if I do get it right. So moving right along. Why is it hard to break habits then? Why is it so hard to break? And it always seems like, right, the habits that are hard to break are the bad ones. The good ones, you can jump right off the boat, right? But I guess that's the challenge in life itself. So again, we can easily say they're easy to break. We can easily say they're difficult to break. But it all depends on what habit, what's your resolve, who are you. But for the majority of people, and for the sake of this show right now, let's just get into why is it hard to break bad habits. But a habit in general. Because, we're pretty much, in my opinion, we're just hardwired to react, right? So when there's a habit forming, it's like we're not thinking about that same scenario. Because again, what's the nature of a habit? Something that you do over and over again under those circumstances, right? You wake up and you brush your teeth in the morning. That's a habit. Wouldn't that be a hard habit to break? Why? Because we're hardwired to react, right? We wake up in the morning. We just know we got to clean our mouths, right? We've been sleeping all night, drooling, all types of stuff festering in our mouth. The first thing we do, we roll out of bed, we go brush it. At least I hope so. But neither here nor there. That's just a particular reason why, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, we're hardwired to react. We have that habit already. 2 months been going by. We've been brushing our teeth every morning. Right? I can see that being a bit difficult to break. Like we do something, whatever it is. I used to smoke cigarettes, right? And every time after I finished a meal, I had to have a cigarette. And mind you, I quit. So it wasn't like I needed it. I didn't need a cigarette, but every time after I ate, every time I got in my car, every time I had a conversation on the phone over 5 minutes, I had a cigarette in my hand. And I mean, these are just a few examples. And I realized it wasn't because I needed it. It was just I was hardwired to respond that way. I know any phone call over 5 minutes required a cigarette. Right? I'm about to get in my car. I'm about to drive to the store. I mean, the store can be 3 minutes away. But I had to light a square. And everybody feels me, right? The people that do smoke out there. After you eat, come on, it's nothing like a cigarette. So these are things that I committed myself to because I was hardwired to doing it. It's a habit. So why else is it so hard to break a habit then? Hey, you're hardwired and stuff like that, but we can cross wires and things. There's ways to just, pop that connection real quick. Kind of leads me to a next suggestion. And again, if you're just tuning in, this is the Urban Surfer Glenn T. You are listening to Riding the Wave. And topics are just habits. Humans are creatures of habits. It takes a little over 2 months to form one, 66 days on average to form a habit. We all know that habits need triggers, right? Can't do it without a trigger. There's good and bad habits. They can be easily broken, or maybe difficult. It depends on what kind of habit. But they usually easy to break, hard to make. Your world, you can assume it the way you like. But why is it hard to break? For those habits that we want to address, we stop using reason once habit is formed. Once we do something, it becomes a response, a normality, right? Those triggers, they require it, right? So that's why we just respond now. It's not like you think about the effects of cancer when you're lighting that cigarette, right? Or how much sugar is in a can of soda when you're drinking it. Not if you like drinking a Dr. Pepper every day, right? Sugar, what's that? I don't see it. But imagine if you use that reasoning every time, per se, you smoke a cigarette, or you drunk that soft drink, or you put that extra spoon of sugar inside your coffee. What if you use reason? Would it actually be a habit anymore? I mean, maybe some days you might overlook the risk and just say, hey, listen, I want a soda, or I need that square, But that's exactly why it's a habit, because we don't use reason. We're just hardwired to react. Once it happens, once it's a habit, boom. And I mean literally, it's a trigger. Say, for instance, it was times, and just using a cigarette because it's a bad habit, and it just shows you how habits really work, because this is a no-brainer. When you smoke cigarettes, you're not thinking about anything. But you can just have finished smoking a cigarette, stomped it out, flicked it, threw it in an ashtray, whatever the case is. You had a full square. Now you're getting back to your day. And not 5 minutes later, I would have a telephone conversation and be right back smoking. I mean, my body didn't need another milligram of nicotine in it. But the trigger was the phone call, and it just happened to be over 5 minutes. So now you're looking for the lighter, you're looking for the pack of cigarettes, and you're off. Do you know we don't even realize a habit's forming sometimes? How many of you guys think that's another way that it becomes difficult to break a habit? And again, if you have any suggestions, comments, or questions, you can always reach out to rtw.podcast, which is my Facebook, Glenn_town. That is my Twitter. And ridingthewave.podcast@gmail.com. That is my Gmail account. So you guys could always reach out. So how many of you guys feel that you don't even realize it sometimes, right? You could be doing something, and next thing you know is a habit. You're used to talking to somebody on the phone every day. You don't even realize it's a habit until you don't talk to that person one day, right? Oh, wow, oh, snap, what happened? Something must be wrong. We usually talk at this time every day, right? It might just sneak up on us. Don't even know a habit's forming, and it just happens. And then once it's there, it's there. You're used to hanging out every weekend. Next thing you know, your marriage is in trouble. Be careful. Habits will sneak right up on you. Now that we're talking about habits and why it's so hard to break them, namely the bad ones. We're not worried about how to break the good habits. That's never really a problem, But we know that, we're certainly creatures of habits. And for all of you guys out there that think that habits form in 21 days, no, that's a myth. It takes about 66 days. They certainly need triggers. Both good and bad habits exist. And we know it's hard to break them because we're hardwired to react. Once we do it, we just do it that way all the time, right? We don't use any reason anymore. Just the bell rings, the dog bites. No brainer. And it sneaks right up on us. So we just got to realize that, can't walk with our eyes closed. So now that we know, we scratch the surface of habits. And again, I try not to make my shows too long, but I try to make them effective enough that it'll just leave you with something to think about. How do we break these habits? How do we start to shift away from the bad ones, right? Identify the triggers. Just identify the triggers. Hey, if you know after a cigarette you eat a meal, after, let's just rephrase that. You know after a meal you need a cigarette, right? So how about after the meal, you chew a piece of gum? Right after the meal, you just break open a stick of gum and you just pop it in your mouth, right? Or before you eat, why don't you put your lighter somewhere inconvenient? And your cigarettes, for that matter. Just like we're creatures of habit, one thing humans can't get past is comfort. Make it uncomfortable for yourself, right? Start small. You ever thought of that? I'm a dreamer, so sometimes it's hard for me to capture that thought. But start small. Start off with, hey, when I got to use the restroom, I'm not going to smoke that cigarette. Or, hey, I'm not going to have that extra donut with that coffee today. I'm going to not talk about that person when I hear that person's name. Let me just stop. It's easy just to capture one thing at a time. And if it's small, it shouldn't be that difficult. What do you think? What's some other good ways to break habits, right? Bad ones, at least, right? Identifying the triggers a certain way. Start off small. What about just flat out replacing it? Every time I want to smoke a cigarette, I'm going to eat a fruit. Just swap. Every time I want to smoke a cigarette, I'm going to chew a piece of gum. Just replace it. And again, I'm not getting on smokers like that or anything like that. But, that's just a clear example. And we know it's a clear bad habit. And we know it's just a good example to use, honestly. It's really nothing much to it. I can relate to it myself. It's just easy to reference. So don't feel bad, smokers. A lot of people may have not been there before, but I certainly have. So I can relate. How else do we want to break bad habits? Remind yourself it's a bad habit. Fight fire with fire, right? Habits don't require reason. So how about when you do want to light that cigarette, you do want to drink that soft drink that's extra sugary, you want to eat that extra donut, remind yourself simply, man, this is bad. This isn't good for me. If I smoke this cigarette, what am I going to do? Is this going to help me out of my day? Now I got to stand outside and air myself out a little bit more or whatever. Just remind yourself it's bad, right? How many sugary drinks you're going to have before you have to take insulin or something like that, right? How many pieces of chocolate you're going to eat before you become obese? It sneaks up on us, doesn't it? That's what habits are. So remind yourself. Remember, you're the only one responsible for you. If you're not going to do it, nobody else is going to take the initiative for you. We all have to be the leader of our own lifestyles. We all have to be responsible for ourselves. Show yourself that proper care. Give yourself that reverence, right? Put yourself on a pedestal. Say, hey, my body's my temple. I don't want to smoke. I don't want to drink too many sugary drinks. I don't want to stuff my face with a bunch of chocolates. These are indulgences, and sometimes it's just not the best thing to indulge in. But there's certainly habits. I'm sure whoever's smoking cigarettes, this isn't your first day, more than likely. If it is, drop it. It's a nasty habit. For those people who drink too many soft drinks, we know medicine is expensive. We know healthcare is certainly teetering one way or another. Kind of control yourself. Water is a good beverage too, right? We have tea, we have other things. There's plenty of things you can drink besides sugary drinks. Those people who want to eat chocolate, there's a such thing as carrots and other celeries, and there's things out there that you can kind of switch off. If you want to keep it sweet, man, go get some fruit snacks. Something a little healthier there. You don't have to always feel like you can eat like you're celebrating. So we can start replacing it. Just remind yourself. Let's break those bad habits. Again, this is the beginning of the year. So we have plenty of time to get into it. Once again, you've been listening to the Urban Surfer Glenn T. And again, you have been riding the wave with me. I want to thank everybody out there for doing so, for your suggestions, your comments, your questions. Keep tuning in. Just get to where you're going safely. Hopefully I changed your mind today in a positive way. Otherwise, definitely back to the drawing board. And just stay in your lane. Think twice and send a good word to somebody that you know. I love the support. Thank you. My name is Glenn T. You have been riding Wave. You guys be well.